Hi there, my name is Damon Bell, and I would like to discuss some of my childhood memories with some of my best friends growing up. And of course, I guess the first best friends I ever had would be my cousins, Donna and Zane and Wes, and Pam. Don't forget Pam. A few other second cousins and stuff, but I think we can skip over that for now. Got a little list here. Let's see. Well, let's start with my cousin Zane. We had a lot of fun growing up. He, to put it mildly, he's one of the whitest guys you probably ever met, but he did the absolute best MC Hammer dance you've ever seen anybody do. I think MC Hammer would be impressed. We I spent quite a bit of time with him and his sister Donna, twins if you didn't know that, and spent a lot of time at their house, a lot of time at Granny's house, and you know we did a little bit of everything. I one of my main memories of spending time at Grand's house was riding bicycles. We would ride up and down Blum Street, dodging cars, and riding through mud puddles and stuff. I mean, pretty standard, I think. Uh, Zane was always pretty mechanical, as far as mechanically inclined. Rephrase that, mechanically inclined. I that gene skipped right past me. Dad tried to teach me everything he could about mechanicking, and I wasn't having any of that. I was just all thumbs. Um, let's see. I remember Granny used to have a trailer next door to her house, and the three of us, four of us with my sister, we'd spend a lot of time in there. Uh, I remember being in there. I don't remember what we were doing in that trailer house so much, but I remember we had good times. I wouldn't have gone in there too much if it wasn't fun. Um, I remember one thing we did. I talked about this at Granny's funeral. Actually, was we would play puppies. We would pretend to be puppies, and Gran would call us or Donna would call us, and we'd come running up to the house on four legs and stuff. And it was goofy as hell, but it was a lot of fun. Or at one point, I think it was Zane gave me like one of those remote control like front end loaders, a little miniature deal. Put a little oil in it and it would smoke, and it was broken, and we tried to fix it, and it was definitely more broken after we got done fixing it. But hey, you got to start somewhere, and he eventually ended up becoming good at that kind of stuff, and I never really seemed to quite get the hang of it. I remember once when I was probably 14 or 15, he would have been around 16. We went to the monster truck show here in town, and that was quite an experience. Loud as hell. If you've never been to one, earplugs. Definitely want to take earplugs. I remember we'd stopped at a buddy of his house, pick him up, and at that point we were all pretty much country, into country. Garth Brooks taking over the world, and we were all into country. And so, of course, with country comes blue jeans and usually a lot of starch. This guy's pants, I don't remember what his name was, but his pants were stiff as a friggin' board. I mean, must have used 8 pounds of starch in them pants when they cleaned them. They were literally standing up on their own. I kid you not. And so we're in there waiting for this dude to get dressed, and he calls us in. He's like, "Hey, I can't I can't get my pants up. They're too stiff." So we had to kind of like break his pants up a little bit to get him where he could actually put his legs in them. And we had to use, I think we got a pair of vice grips on each side and clamped onto his pants and literally, like shook him into his pants, kind of jerked his pants up his body, and had to use the vice grips to close them. It was just so stupid. It was just insanely tight pants. It was rather comical. One kind of a silly thing at Aunt Ann's house, Donna and Zane's Christy, my other cousin. Sorry, Christy, my bad. She was a little older than us. I didn't spend as much time with her as the younger cousins. But at Aunt Anne's house, she had a fireplace. And I always was fascinated because hers had a little vent under it. Apparently, it had a little motor or something. You turn it on, and it would blow hot air from out from under the fireplace. Because if you've never been around a fireplace, yeah, it puts out a lot of heat, but it also brings in cold air from the rest of the house, and they're kind of silly. But hey, who doesn't love a good fireplace? One thing that happened at at Ann's house, playing with the cousins, we were always obsessed with digging holes. I mean, that's me and my cousins, me and my friends. We would dig holes and call them booby traps. And for some reason, we, we got the idea that we were going to dig a hole in Aunt Anne's front yard, just right by the driveway. And by the end of the day, we dug on that hole all day. And by the end of it, it was probably maybe 3 or 4 feet deep, maybe a couple of feet wide. And I'm pretty sure when she got home from work or wherever she was at that day, I recall her not being pleased, and we definitely had to fill that hole back in. Pretty, pretty stupid, just digging random holes. We would dig holes in my parents' backyard and put little sticks and leaves and crap over it, call them booby traps, and not one person ever unintentionally fell into it. We stepped into them a few times to see if they would work, and of course, mom and dad would get on our asses about that, leaving booby traps around. So we would dig a booby trap and play with our GI Joes and have to fill it back up at the end of the day because otherwise we'd all get our butts busted. Speaking of GI Joes, I'll bring up one of my probably my best friend growing up was Dylan DeJulio, and man, we played with GI Joes constantly. Just man, they were our entire lives really. And he used to put his in the microwave and melt them a little bit, or put black cats in between their joints and blow them up. And those would be the injured GI Joes at the end of the battle between us and Cobra. Pretty pretty goofy. um, One thing that happened out in front of Aunt Anne's house, besides us digging a giant hole for no reason, Esther Kinnett. I made her mad. I may have called her a bitch or something. I was probably 8 years old, if even that old, and she kicked me in the nuts. First time I'd ever been kicked in the nuts, and I'm pretty sure I deserved it. And I definitely did not do whatever it was I did to deserve that. Many times after that, I definitely avoided calling women bad names for, well, at least I was in high school or an adult. Uh, Talk about Memaw's house, or Rita Casey. Um, Me and my cousin Wes, Rachel, my sister, we would play. We'd spend our whole summers at Memaw's. Felt like spend the night there nearly every weekend. And first few times, I remember I would call crying, wanting to go home. My parents had to come pick me up after I begged them all day to leave me there overnight. Sorry, mom and dad, I was a butthole. But we had just countless hours of fun at Memaw's house. Some of the stuff we would do, we would get colored chalk and make entire cities. Hours drawing out these cities and roads and buildings and stuff, and playing with our Hot Wheels and micro machines. And man, I can still vividly picture the front porch just covered in chalk, and her double carport just covered in these chalk cities and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. But apparently they used to do that. My mom and her sister when they were kids. We kind of carried on the tradition of doing that. Meemaw and Granny both always had gardens. I remember a little more clearly helping Meemaw's garden, but we'd be out there picking green beans and stuff, and we'd be in the under the carport snapping the ends off the green beans and getting them ready for dinner. And I think I would end up eating more green beans than I ever picked or snapped. And I distinctly recall throwing up at least one time from eating too many green beans. I can definitely not suggest that course of action. Not a good idea. She also had these little tiny green apple, sour apples or crab apples. I thought they were. I could be wrong. On the west side of her house, man, those were delicious yet bitter and kind of gross. But I think we'd eat so many of those we'd get sick every summer. My cousin Wes had this little Chihuahua, the fattest little Chihuahua you ever seen, named Coco, and that dog was a was truly a little jerk. But Wes loved that dog, but it hated everybody else. I think it eventually kind of warmed to me, but boy, people did not like that dog, and it did not like them. So I can't really say too much about that dog. When I turned 16, it might have been closer when I was 18. Well, either way, I was working at Sonic, a little fast food drive-in place. Anyway, and before work, usually I'd go to my cousin's house and we would play video games. I remember distinctly being in my Sonic outfit playing video games on Wes's bed slash couch slash gaming center. It was a lot of fun. One thing I was always jealous of Wes is he pretty much always seemed to have the newest video games and all the new consoles and everything. And we, our family, did not have the video game consoles. Memaw had a Nintendo before we did. Her and Paul loved to play RBI baseball on Nintendo, and so it always just killed me and Rachel and Bobby, my brother and sister, that Memaw had a Nintendo and we didn't, and we would bring that up to mom and dad to no avail. Eventually, we ended up buying one off one of Dad's cousins. They were somehow involved in the Heritage House here in town, and they sold us their Nintendo for I think $50, and it had 100 games probably with it and a few controllers and some of the other stuff. And I remember the electric plug for it was covered in electric tape because that whole plug would just fall apart anytime you messed with it. It was pretty nuts. One of the things, we were getting in a lot of trouble. Back to Zane, we were in his bedroom, probably listening to MC Hammer or something, or watching TV, maybe if he even had a TV in his room back then. And the word Nunya had just come about. And we thought, let's try that. We walked out in the living room, and our parents asked us, what are y'all doing in there? Nunya. What does that mean? Nunya stinking business? Ooh, I don't remember if I got spanked then or later at home, but yeah, I never did that again. Never. I don't think I even said the word Nunya for the next decade. um, our, the we actually did have a computer growing up. It was, if I've Googled it correctly, it was either an Atom or a Coleco, used magnetic tapes, like audio tape looking tapes. And it was a pretty basic ass computer, but man, I spent countless hours on that thing. You could plug it, it had a coax cable, so you plug it into your TV. So we may have had a weird older computer, but we had the biggest screen in town. You could plug it into the big old giant wooden console TV that we had, with the just 13 channels on it and everything, or we were the remote controls, us kids. It was, love that damn thing. About Memaw, sorry I'm jumping around so much. I just wrote these things down and did not think to put them in order before I did this, so sorry. Um, I, we all kind of grew up going to Emmanuel Baptist Church, and Sunday school wasn't bad. A lot of kids there that I went to school with, so I didn't enjoy that aspect of it so much. Super great kids on Sunday, but the other 5 or 6 days a week that were kind of turds. Kind of a little bit soured me on church a little, not gonna lie. But during big church, we'd sit there and draw on they had little comics. I think they were called Pix, P-I-X comics, little church comics during Sunday school. But during the main church, the preacher would preach, and I was not interested in whatever it was he was saying. That was all adult stuff. I didn't care. So me and Wes would get Nemo's purse and get crayons or whatever and draw these little comics and make our own comics. But by the end of the service, we would nearly always be passed out sleeping on Nemaw's shoulder. I don't remember, I don't know if she liked that or not, or if it was annoying to her, but we definitely did it regardless. I'll come back to that one later. Once I had the great idea of keeping chocolate milk handy. I've always loved milk, especially chocolate milk. So I eat cereal by the tons. I could have probably kept General Mills in the black just by myself. I had one of them thermoses, and this isn't the modern day where a Yeti or a Ozark Trail or whatever thermos will keep your shit cold for hours and hours and hours. These were just regular plastic, a He-Man thermos or something you get in a lunchbox. And I decided, well, I'm going to keep some chocolate milk in there and just have it under my bed for emergencies. Because you never know when you're going to want some chocolate milk, but you always do. And I put it under the bed and promptly forgot about it. And a few days or weeks later, I don't remember it. It finally let us know that it was still down there. God, that was just about one of the most horrible smells you could imagine. It was a pretty bad idea. I remember going to Mom worked at Texas Bank for a guy named Robert Myers, and I was just a little kid then. Rachel was tiny, and I remember getting on Mom's typewriter, and I would just sit there and bang away and act like I'm typing up, friggin' Dostoevsky or something. And it was just gibberish, it was just nonsense crap. I was just banging the keys really, but kind of like a little kid playing a piano. But it was super fascinating for me. That's probably part of the reason I like computers to this day still. Um, yeah, pretend typing. That was dumb. I was a little too old for most of the take your child to work day stuff, but they ended up. I remember Rachel went to work with Mom a few times. I think maybe with Dad to the highway department, maybe even the DPS with Mom. I don't remember, but I was probably 14 or 15 when the highway department did a take your child to work today, because it was mostly just take your daughter to work today, work day, so they could see that women could be anything in the world, which is true. And we went to the highway department with Dad, and they had taught us how to make street signs and stuff, and using all the machines they used, and toured the shop and everything. And the thing I distinctly remember most is how much everybody respected Dad. Everybody was, well, one, they were deathly afraid of him for some reason. He's a big old friggin' teddy bear that he was kind of a big guy, tall, and pretty muscular, and kind of imposing, I guess. And people were always just, people I've talked to since I've been an adult, they were just deathly afraid of him. But they definitely respected him. He was a hell of a hand, and he was crew leader for years, and that's one thing everybody said about Dad is they all respected him. But Dad tried to teach me his mechanicking ways, and like I said, I was it's not really in my wheelhouse. The first time he had me help him change the oil on the car or truck or whatever, it was a disaster. I ended up coated in oil. I think I got it all in my hair, and just, yeah, I got soaked. A mechanic, even though I'm wearing a mechanic shirt like a dumbass and I work as a mechanic, that doesn't mean I've gotten any better at it. We usually had a friend do most of our work. One of Mom's coworkers, her boyfriend Bud Heidecker, I think. He was kind of a shade tree mechanic, and he would usually help me out. He taught me how to grease a bearing and replace a wheel seal on a car or truck. Once my heater controls quit working in my 81, 82 Ford, with kind of a baby blue. I love that truck. And the heater controls would get stuck. So we spent probably 2-3 hours taking that whole friggin' system apart. Yeah, Sonic Mint had slid down the defroster tube and got jammed into controls, and it wouldn't slide. And we were both just amazed that we'd spent 3 hours taking this thing apart. It's probably going to take another two to put it back together over a Sonic Mint. So don't keep junk on your dashboard. It's really not a good idea. Once I remember we went with Memaw and Pa. I think it was me, Rachel, and Wes. Probably went up to a town called Ira Ann, a couple hours southwest of here, up a big hill. Kind of neat to drive back down it. Anyway, that's beside the point. They had a place there called Alley Oop Land. I think George Thorogood has a song about it. You can Google that. Don't waste your time. It's a shitty song, and it was a really crappy theme park. It was this guy who rides a dinosaur, I think, wears a top hat, if I recall correctly. Kind of a caveman guy or something, and it was the worst. Everything was rusty. Most of the attractions you couldn't actually get in because they were so old and degraded, and they were just basically dangerous for people to be around. Pretty friggin' funny. Um, Back to Dylan. So we were big into digging holes. Everybody I knew were always digging holes. And at one point, it was probably his brother Shane that done most of the work, but they had dug this whole like Viet Cong tunnel system in their backyard, and had put like some big plywood sheets over it and covered it in wood. And man, we would spend hours in there just probably playing with GI Joes and other stupid crap. Who knows what 8-year-old kids get up to? I remember they had a big, in the corner of the yard, I think it was like a big like weeping willow tree, and we would climb in that tree and hang out and spend hours in that tree. Fast. I mean, I still love those kind of trees. I kind of think about putting one here maybe. Um, One point, Shane, his middle older brother, had a. He's always fascinated with trucks and tractors and stuff like that. And somebody had given him a lawnmower for real cheap, and he took the mowing deck off of it and thought he had a bulldozer. There was some stump in his yard that he wanted to pull up, and yeah, it was just a lawnmower. We're sitting there, doing wheelies with a rope tied to the stump, and it never worked. I think we all knew that it wasn't going to work, but he was dead set on this little shitty lawnmower being this giant tractor, and the thing I'll always remember is him and his buddy Billy Sills had their own language. I only remember one word of it, and it's scart, scart. I mentioned that to Shane once and recently, and he does not remember that. But I just clears a bell. I remember him having this whole friggin' language, him and Billy, and it drove his parents crazy. They never knew what the hell he was talking about. When I was just right down the street from my parents' house was a kind of a wooded area, and on the side of it was a lot of like dirt trails, and we'd ride our bikes up there and up and down these hills and stuff, and constantly getting injured and never telling anybody about it. There's one hill to this day I have still never managed to ride it all the way up. I'd get 3/4 of the way, 80% of the way, 90% of the way, and never could get to the top without stopping and putting my feet down and just kind of hopping up the hill. It was quite a regret of mine, actually. Everybody else figured out how to eventually get enough speed or just pump just a little more at the end there to get up to the top, but I never could do it. Had a couple of neighbor kids named David and Pam. I think that's what their names were. Real, real nice kids. Their dad had a moped or a scooter, and it was the first time I'd ever got to ride on anything like a motorcycle. And the first thing he said was, "Don't touch anything chrome because it's hot; it'll burn you." So of course I immediately put my leg on it and burned the piss out of myself. I don't think there's a scar there anymore, if there ever really was a scar. I remember asking my parents to put cocoa butter on it. They're like, "Quit being a sissy. Don't worry about that." And it, it went away. um, One stupid thing, when I think we were in first grade, uh, of course everybody has favorite clothes. Probably not as an adult so much, but as a kid, you had that one shirt you really loved, and Dylan had this shirt, and at some point his mom let him wear it a couple times in the same week, 2 days in a row or something, and I was just insanely jealous of this. That's all I wanted in the world was to wear my favorite shirt 2 days in a row, and mom wouldn't let me, and I know why now, but it just didn't look good. You looked like you're a regular homeless kid, I guess, and it killed me that he could do it, and I wasn't able to. Uh, some of my favorite memories involve Dad, and we used to go hunting and fishing all the time. Fishing, I was just absolutely the worst at. I, to this day, do not give two craps about fishing. It's relaxing, it's fun, whatever, but not my thing. But hunting, I always really loved hunting with Dad. He was a damn good hunter and pretty good teacher. Not always the most patience, but I wasn't the best student either, so I totally understand. And we went deer hunting at the same Shaker Mechanic Bud's property. Got my first deer there. And Dad, his favorite story is I shot it, and he said we got to do the blood, the blood lick test or something, and I had to go get a little bit of the blood and lick it and impart the deer spirit with mine or some nonsense. And on the video, I'm like, hey, that's actually pretty good. Fucking stupid. Quail hunting, that was really my favorite kind of hunting. Everything else, you're just sitting there waiting for the animal to come to you. But Dad always had really good bird dogs. You know, Katie, German short-haired pointer, and we would just follow her around for hours out in the middle of nowhere. You know, she'd point and get a little closer, and then the covey of quail would fly up, and you'd go to town on them. And man, I always loved quail hunting. Way more fun than pretty much any other kind of hunting. Let's see. Micro Machines and Hot Wheels. Boy, those and GI Joes. That was probably our two favorite toys growing up as kids. Especially when they came out with the Hot Wheels, you get them wet or cold, and they would change colors. Boy, we flipped out over that stuff. Um, that's that's about it, really. I guess. Nearly out of time on the video. I know that for sure. So, thank you for listening to me ramble and rant about some memories that are probably only half true anyway. I love all y'all. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for having me. And bless you all.